We have a big group, so without any further ado, I am going to bring them out, starting with David Costabile. You know him as Wag. Condola Rashad. Toby Leonard Moore. Malin Akerman.
You can do it. Thank you.
Maggie Sipp. Damian Lewis. Paul Giamatti.
Got my name on it. Oh, yeah.
And the two guys that got us into this whole mess, Bryan, co-creators, Bryan Koppelman. And David Levine. Start with a question for Bryan and David. Talking about season 2, you got a little flavor of it. We're going to be, I'm not bragging, well, I am bragging, but I have seen the first episode of season 2, and I can tell we are just shot right back in. Like, you're just right back into the world, and it's so great. You remember how much you've missed it. This show is so of its time, in a way. It is such a contemporary show in a way that a lot of other great shows out there are not, in that it was, you know, I know you all developed it over a couple of years, really trying to gauge the tension in the world between finance and prosecutors after the mortgage meltdown and after all of the nefarious stuff that happened on Wall Street that made headlines for years. You know, this show sprang up and captures that cat and mouse tension. So in the year since season 1 has aired, and as you prepared season 2, how do you think that world has changed? How has it evolved, and how has that fed into
Has there been
the
some storyline?
And I'm not talking just the T word, but it just in the general in the general landscape, because I know that's so important to this show.
Yeah, well, you know, we clearly, first of all, we're so happy to be here, and for the two of us to be here with this incredible cast we get to work with is a huge thrill. And they work so hard, it's really incredible. They were all up first thing this morning. You know, we don't try to really deal directly with current events on the show. We think that it's a losing game, and you're playing catch up all the time because you can never predict what's going to happen. We do try to tune into the frequencies in a way. And what we have found is, even though we didn't consciously intend it, there are tons of resonancies when you watch the show. We've been watching the show back now because we've edited 9 of the 12 episodes already. And so we've been able to watch a big group of the episodes. And all the stuff that we all tried to do in the first season and that people loved exists in this season, but you're right. It's as though we just turned it up to 11. And as the great Spinal Tap would say. And but the world was turned up to 11 too. And so it does, it seems to us, it does resonate somehow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about, again, we're going to be spoiler free, but talk in sort of the broad themes. How, and I throw this out to all of the actors, how do you think over the course of season 1 your characters changed? What would you say were the most significant changes for your characters, and how, without giving too much away, how do you think that sets you up for season 2? How does that set the tone for season 2?
David?
I think you should pick one.
Why not?
Somebody.
Why not you?
Sure, why not? Thank you.
Why not me answering the question?
Okay, all right. This is the sort of paying the cost of being the star. I'm going to start with Bobby Axelrod and Chuck Rhodes in the
Exactly.
first
That's what I thought. And we will answer for each other.
in the season opener. You couldn't be more, cat and mouse is what comes to mind. You're chasing each other. You're so in each other's heads in that way. Can you talk about sort of that arc over season 1 and what you think we're going to see in season 2? In terms of how those characters related to each other, how they influenced each other, almost like atoms bouncing off of each other.
Great way to say it. Just say like atoms bouncing
off of each other. You know, the cat and mouse thing is interesting. I feel like in this season, it's not ever clear necessarily who's the cat and who's the mouse. And that's true of the first season, I guess, too. I don't know. How did Chuck change in the first season? I'm still trying to learn my lines for tomorrow. So I'm trying to put myself back into the first season. Chuck lost control I think he lost more and more control of himself. I don't know what that means exactly, but he sort of, he lost the sense of himself to some extent. He lost control, in a lot of ways.
You two play with that idea a lot. Axe he's often talked about the numbers, and that you read the numbers, and there are algorithms to be followed. Mm-hmm. And they both know, I think, that if you can find the Achilles heel, that emotional tipping point in your adversary, that's when you nail
That's
it.
a good point, too. They both exist within these very circumscribed worlds of algorithms and law and stuff, and they've found the ways to mess with those things. And then they lose control within them.
I mean, that was part of our overarching concept, that each of these guys were masters of their own universe, completely balanced, hyper-rational, the best at walking away when the odds slanted against them, and then suddenly in each other they found the unbalancing agent, and everything came into play.
And if those people that lead us are mostly saddled with sociopathic tendencies, and by that, and I don't mean that.
I don't know if they think they're saddled by them. I think they're
people always
useful.
laugh at that. I mean, there are sociopaths everywhere, and I bet there are a couple in the room tonight.
If you would really stand up and you're
it really only
There's definitely
means,
some on stage, that's for sure.
It's perfectly cast. It really only means the ability to compartmentalize one's emotional life. It's as simple as that. And the people that lead us are able to do that more successfully than others.
It's useful to them.
Yeah, they're able to push shame and guilt to one side, and then they operate.
Yeah.
And they move forward, and if you're in the way, you get put to one side. So being able to operate like that is essential and key to success, and key to the success of these two guys. So when they're able to needle one another and find those emotional beats in each other where you can stick the knife in,
They can throw each
then
other off.
they tend to crumble, or they become more wayward.
And I would say one way in which, throughout the course of this season, that the characters shift slightly is, it seems they, and it's true of everybody here, there's a creeping self-awareness that seems to happen in this season as a result of the events of last season. People are have become woken up at the end of last season to who they are. And so as we meet these people now, they just have that little bit more of a sense of the things they do and why they do them.
Maggie, let's talk about Wendy. I mean, she really, over the course of season 1 has quite an awakening to her situation, and in season 2 we find her very much in control.
Somewhat. I mean, I feel like at the end of season 1 there's this kind of like triumphant note of like, I am cutting these men off, and
I didn't know you were thinking that.
Just saying. And there's a kind of almost an elation in that. But then I think season 2 is very much a reckoning with sort of like the emotional baggage of, a marriage that's tanked and another kind of marriage that's really gone awry, and betrayal. And then, what does it mean for her to sort of reassemble herself without these people? Can she reassemble herself without these people? To what extent should she be doing work to repair and understand what went wrong. And then there's also, I think, for me, like in the first season, there was this growing sense of conscience about what was going on at Axe Capital and criminality, and so there's just like a lot of layers of reckoning, and we use the word existential questioning that I think the character goes pretty heavily into season 2 with.
And you have that, your character as a therapist has that extra layer of, you're the one trying to get into the heads of people to help them do their better job. That must be, as an actor, that must be quite a challenge to play.
Well, the thing that's the most challenging is that she has sort of x-ray vision when it comes to all these other people, but every therapist I've ever met doesn't have x-ray vision into themselves. And so, really trying to find that authentically, places where I can't really see myself and I act rationally or irrationally, and sort of justifying that for myself in the midst of all this other sort of wisdom that she does have about people. That's sort of the fun part of the character in a way.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot to play.
Yeah.
Malin, let's talk about Lara.
She becomes a stripper.
No spoilers.
Oh, sorry.
No spoilers, Mom.
Oh, right,
no
right.
spoilers.
I think she's a bit of the emotional piece of this relationship, and I think the further they get into this world that they're living in, the power, the money, the more she has to find the balance and to keep everyone grounded and ask the bigger questions of, what is right for her kids and the family. And so she has some, she starts to be faced with some bigger decisions and questions in season 2.
But when push comes to shove, she can be as cunning as Bobby. Same
That's
same
why they're
thing for
together.
Wendy.
They're cut from the same cloth. They know how to get their way. They're very good at manipulating. They're cutthroat. They'll do anything to get their way, really, which is exciting to play. It's lovely, because I'm more of a kill 'em with kindness kind of person in real life. So it's hard for me to even have a conversation with someone without getting nervous. So so she's very opposite and that's really exciting to play, to tap into, because I think that everyone has a little piece of everything inside them. So to get to bring that out and really work with that is exciting.
None of these are female women that are worried about being seen as nice or likable.
No.
These are and the same goes for Kate Sacker-Condola. This is a woman who has unrestrained ambition, wears it on her sleeve. Can you talk, give us a sort of a general sense of where we find her in season 2?
Yeah, where we find her in season 2 is that she's working, not to give it away, but she's still just as ambitious as ever. But I'm not going to, but she is working very closely with, she's working closer to Chuck, and so she's been given a little more responsibility. And I think the tricky thing with Kate is that, she comes from this very wealthy background. She's probably the wealthiest person in that office. But she also has a really, really firm sense of justice and really actually believes in it. And so it's a little hard for her to navigate, because there are many people that might look at her and think, because of her background, that she's in it for something else. And really, she doesn't need any money. She has it already. She's actually in it because she believes in what she's doing. I think that where we find her in this season is in a place where, like kind of what Bryan was saying, everyone kind of wakes up. So there's certain things about her, not necessarily herself, but things from her past, things from her family that maybe don't necessarily fall in line with, she wants to become president. There's certain things that she might find out that she's like, oh, that's not a good detail. I didn't want to know that. So there's a lot of things that she's finding out even about her. Basically, she's finding out that she's also not perfect. And I think that she's kind of a perfectionist. And so this is about her finding out that she's not as perfect as she would like. And I think that the thing with Kate is that she's very, as I said, she believes in justice, but also she's there's a bone in her body that is ruthless, and I think that if she were to allow herself to be ruthless, there's something about her and Chuck that I think is a little bit connected in that sense, where, you know, there might be a conversation where they're, you know, trying to come up with a solution, and, you know, she might give an option that's a really ruthless option, and so they're kind of like, okay, I guess we'll do that. Thanks, Kate. That's kind of dark, but you know. So it's all about her, she's still pushing her way through, and on the U.S. Attorney side this season, there's a lot more competition inside of the office. So you kind of see, you know, between Bryan and Kate, and there's other U.S. attorneys that you see really vying for Chuck's ultimate trust, and you kind of watch them navigate around each other to try and get ahead of each other, while also maintaining a certain kind of balance, but really they're trying to get ahead of each other. But I think that the big thing for Kate is that she's realizing that she's really trying to get to a place where she's not just, where she's part of the decision making and not just on the end of the decision, not just the one carrying it out, but really wants to be someone who's making the decisions. And so you really watch her try and figure out how she can get there.
Yeah. You see her striving for that respect and power that no amount of money can buy within that setting, which must be really great to play. Mm-hmm. Toby, your character, especially over the course of season 1, seemed to, you know, have a lot of sort of an awakening to an understanding of, you know, some of the less than by the book practices of Chuck Rhoades and Bryan's role in them. Can you talk about how that was for you as an actor and how you feel like the character is set up for season 2?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fine line that Bryan walks, I think.
Oh, no. God, the giggles, I'm so sorry.
What happened? What did I say? Something.
You forgot the first name.
It's all good. Keep going.
Do you need a moment? Just gonna go out and come back in again?
You go ahead.
You're just so innately comic. It's so funny.
Wow. That's so interesting. What was the question again, sorry? Wow. Well, this is great. I want to keep watching.
I'm not going to stop anytime soon, so just go.
Yeah. Did you say the way that I say my first name, Bryan? That's really funny. Bryan, yeah. Yeah, that is kind of funny. Bryan does walk a fine line.
Now you know how to crack up Mullen.
Exactly.
It's very easy. It's very especially as you interact so much with the hurricane that is Chuck. That must have, you know, for you guys to have that.
Damn.
The
Call me a hurricane.
I want
the
the
push
T-shirt.
and pull of working, you know, of that character trying
Chuck
to.
coming your way.
Totally. High pressure front.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, I think Bryan's come from, he's got a great deal of integrity, and he's worked hard to get where he wants to go. And you've heard me speak before, right? Like, this is not the first time you've heard me talk. We ate lunch the other, okay. I think he did, you know, idealize Chuck's position for a long time. This is the first time he's sort of understood that you need to be astonishing.
I should go.
Oh, man.
Power through there.
Huh? I don't know how. This is amazing.
Keep going. You're Tasmania's greatest living sex symbol.
Well, you know, what am I going to...
You have a secret. Go.
I didn't want to be the first to say it. Yeah, no, it's the first time that he's found someone who I think, who he idolizes, who is bending or potentially breaking these rules. But the fact of the matter is, as good as Bryan is at his job, you know, he's going into these fights against drug lords and who these guys put away, you know, terrorists and dodgy hedge fund managers. He's going into this fight as like an excellent boxer, but he's coming up against street fighters. He's going to get sliced up. So I think the challenge for him moving forward is whether he's going to bend or break those rules himself. If he does, he's lost because he's lost his integrity, and if he doesn't do it, he may lose altogether. So it's you know, he's tap dancing on a tightrope, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And also presented at, you know, with the very real challenge of, you do a couple of years as a federal prosecutor, you could set yourself up in, that's a smooth path to what could be a very lucrative job as a defense attorney, on the other side of the fence, and
Yeah.
that, the Faustian bargain that Bobby Axelrod offers over pizza
Yeah, I mean, I think
gives you a
Bryan
lot
has
to think about.
Maybe the most to lose potentially, because he's, like you say, I think, the AUSAs make about 10% of what they can potentially make in the private sector. You're walking into a job at 7 figures, so we'll see how that pans out.
Yes.
People are definitely invested in it. I get a lot of advice on the street. It's really, really interesting. We were shooting the other day and a woman came up to me and she squeezed my forearm and she looked me dead in the eye and she was like, "Please don't stop being good."
I think Brian's dilemma is one of the most interesting
No
ones.
preamble, just straight into physical assault. And then I was at the Vatican earlier in the year. I don't even know if I told you this. This guy, in a really creepy way, sort of sidled up behind me and then in a very sort of proper British accent, and he was like, "So you're going to go to Axe Capital, right?" I was like, "At the Vatican." It took me a moment to be like, what are you, so people are really invested. Yeah. I'm going to disappoint somebody. Somebody's going to be upset.
Right.
Yeah.
Most people just say like, "You're such an asshole. I love you." Which I think is great.
Here you go. The conversation's good.
Yeah.
On your move.
Like, yeah, see you later. I am.
There's only one place you're going, and it's hell.
Exactly. But he knows it. That's the good part.
Well, on that note, are you loving having this character to play? I mean, it's so different from I've seen you in so many great shows. It's so different from other characters. Are you enjoying being just venal?
Listen, I go to. It's sinful how much fun I have in my job. It is so much fun, and Bryan and David know me very well. To know each step lower into hell that Wags goes, it's only better for me.
This is true. I mean, we were in drama classes together in college,
Oh, really?
Dave and I. Yeah. And so this is sweet, sweet revenge for getting to do this.
It is.
Every week is great joy.
Yeah.
Do you have any of you had the experience of people coming up to you and knowing your characters? Do you love that? The fact that people are that invested and
No one's ever come up to me. Feeling a little
Give it
left
time.
out.
Give it time.
If somebody could come up to him after, it'd be wonderful.
That's all.
No.
Only when I don't. Only when I'm not expecting it, and I wish that they hadn't.
Oh,
They won't go and wake up, and if I'm like really tired, I went and got coffee one day, and my hair's all over my head, and I just looked a mess, and someone was like, "Kate Sackard." I was like, "Huh? No. What? What? Me? No. Oh, fine, sure." So yeah.
It is interesting how different projects or characters play to different constituencies. So you get a different type of fan watching, your
But there's something
different
great
projects.
about being in this city and doing this show about this city. And I have truck drivers running for mayor. No, but I have truck drivers be like, "Go get X! Get X!" And it's so awesome. I'm living, it lives in a different way, a TV show, too. That's a different thing. I haven't really ever done a TV show before. So it's got a different kind of energy. It's like the story seems so much more alive to people. It's really cool,
And you really do live with your
And
characters,
you
at
do.
least,
And like I say, in this city, too.
People
It's
are
great.
scared of me. Scared of me.
Yeah.
That's really new, where people go, "Oh my God, I love Lara. I'm kind of scared of you." Which, if anyone knew me, are you scared of me?
No.
A little bit.
Yeah. Now you are, right?
I was pushing my daughter down the street to the park the other day, and this garbage truck stops, and he goes, "Hey, Wags, I love your fucking show." We got a hit.
It's true.
It was true.
It's a show that definitely, first of all, it's a testament to all of you. In a world of 400 scripted shows, for people to have connected with you all after one season, to know your characters and to feel that passionate, that's a great testament. But it is a show that really, people, as I loved it from the get-go. I ate it up. But people, as civilians had to watch it week by week. It was one of those things that built, and people got more excited and more invested, and truly, they just, I mean, there was so much talk. Viewers loved the female characters in this show that are so unusual. There's a lot of hard-edged dramas out there, but there aren't as many sort of three-dimensional female characters. Was that reaction something that surprised you, or imagine pleasantly so?
No, we were really pleased to get that reaction because we knew that when we set out to do this show, we didn't want the females to just be like appendages to the guys or something like that. We wanted to make it, real marriages and real relationships and important roles within these worlds.
I mean, as Maggie alluded to before, the feeling that Wendy gets at the end of season 1, early on, Dave and I had come to this idea that we wanted Wendy to kind of win the season. We wanted the surprise to be you're expecting one of these guys to destroy the other one, and in fact, it's kind of mutual destruction for a moment, and Wendy drives away in the Maserati with $5 million. And so we knew that in order to make that really fly, we had to cast women in the show who could stand toe-to-toe with these guys, and then we had an obligation to write for them in a way that they would feel three-dimensional and that you would be rooting for this thing to happen. And we saw it right early. When, in episode 3 of the first season, when Lara gets revenge on the woman who wants to write the book about Bobby, we saw Twitter just blow up. People, this is the perfect room to talk about that moment, the sort of social, but people just lit up that she did that, and that she didn't do it with the help. The grace note that she tells Bobby when it's all done and doesn't ask for his help and just fucking does it. We didn't do that to make any kind of statement at all. But then seeing the way it played was super rewarding to us, that people noticed it.
Yeah, she knew what she was doing. She had a goal, and she didn't need Bobby's help to
That's right.
get there. That's fantastic. For the actors, how has it been now? You had your first season. Coming back to it, were the dynamics different? Obviously, had experience working together after the first season. Did it make it easy?
I just thought of what the dynamic is on set and had to laugh because it's really quite fun.
No.
The way it's interesting because unfortunately we don't all get to work together. It's almost like the way that it operates when we're shooting is it feels like two different sets because you got Axelrod and you got the U.S. Attorney, so we don't often get to see our fellow cast members except for when we have table reads. But I can speak for the U.S. Attorney side, which is, I really wish there was a gag reel so you could really see the shenanigans happen when you put me, Paul, and Toby on a set. It's just, it's great. The dynamic just continues to just get better and better.
Paul's staying silent.
No, it's a good time.
What do you mean?
It's just a good time. It's just, I can't explain it. It just, I don't know. Someone else take over. You guys are there. Now it looks like I'm the only one having a good time. You guys aren't saying that.
I want to sound the
Damien, you have the embarrassment of riches you have this very intense relationship with two incredible female characters, with your wife Malin and with Wendy Rhodes, who is this platonic yet vital force in your life. How has that been to be able to work with
And
her?
also a very intense male character.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Also,
It's just, yeah.
we've become very adroit at shortcutting as actors, especially when you do this kind of work. You don't always know where the story's going. Sometimes your writers don't always know the precise details of the story. And so there's an improvisational quality always to coming together and finding your scenes, finding your characters. And I think the benefit of the second season is that everyone feels they're on slightly more solid ground and starts to feel like a real ensemble who have spent time together, worked together. And it's subtle, but the risks that you're prepared to take with each other in terms of performance are greater, and you feel more held, because the chance, we're very lucky that we do, Canoda's right, we all get on incredibly well together. We're all good friends, we make each other laugh. And if it goes wrong and you make a mistake, it will result in laughter rather than, oh, that was embarrassing. That's, Costy will be embarrassed if I do something wrong. He'll make me realize that I was.
Yeah, there's a nice ease to season 2 because you've sort of gotten over the speed dating quality of season 1, where like you're half naked and in S&M gear with somebody you have never met before.
I have no problem.
You know, just saying, suddenly you've done that a few times.
Anonymity's better for you in that situation.
Anonymity has its charms, actually, and it's, you know, there is a kind of spiky, excited quality to all of that kind of getting to know you insanity, scariness in the first season. But in the second season, as you sort of get into the sort of the deeper psychological layers and the excavation of relationships, it really helps to be friends and to be working with friends and to have shorthands and jokes and, you know, to sort of roll in and be like, I didn't sleep last night, but I'm gonna, you know, and like, you know, and you can all sort of work together in a different way. And whatever you know, there was never hierarchy in this cast, which is one of the really beautiful things. In spite of the fact that, you know, there are starry people around one. And, you know, and that's just...
Oh, stop.
Anyway, that's completely gone now. You know what I'm saying. Anyway, everybody's lost their charm. No, it's just you know, it's family, and we like each other, so it makes working together really, really possible and pleasurable.
I would imagine the alternative would be a lot harder.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Although I think you have to guard against familiarity too.
Yeah.
Because
It's too comfortable.
Yeah, you just like, oh, yeah, here we are.
It's true.
You know, Maggie and I, or Marlon and I standing, and we're in our Uggs, and you know, hair coming out of our ears. Well, hair coming out of my ears. And then I go to makeup, and they put that right. Right. And you know, it's
I think we're in danger of being complacent in this because the material, I think, then will kick your ass.
Yeah.
You get too comfortable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You have to rise to it.
Yeah.
Well, these guys, I mean, I'll just say, I mean, the preparation that all 7 of these people have to do, and that they do. You know, when I still don't think, I didn't know, Dave and I really came from making features mostly, and you hear about the kind of work that it takes, but to actually see the way these people have to prepare, I mean, all of you, they are not only prepared by being off book, which on most shows, people don't show up knowing all the lines. On our show, everybody this season shows up really knowing the lines, but beyond that, really knowing the underpinnings, knowing why their characters are doing things. They've all asked questions a week in advance if there's a question, and they just walk on set and they're wearing the skin of those characters. They are these characters. And then the other day something happened, and Dave and I were talking about how awesome it was. Somebody got, this part wasn't awesome, someone got sick who was supposed to play a scene, someone not here. And so we had to move up a very challenging long scene between Damien and Costi. And it was a scene that was supposed to shoot 2 days later. And the two of them got to work on it. And together were just, you know, they could have been doing a million other things. And they were just grinding in the corner, waiting, preparing, yes, grinding. And they were waiting, preparing. I saw it. You didn't think I was watching, but I was watching. I was watching. Wow. But the scene, I was watching. Why wouldn't I watch? It's my show. I'm going to watch. But, I mean, the scene ended up being, obviously, it was terrific. And watching you both pick each other up on it as the thing was going. Oh, that's your spot. And you guys were so good-humored about it. And the crew were worried about how are we going to do this? Are we going to be able to finish on time? And you guys just fucking nailed it. And it was so inspiring to us. Nothing, no matter what we throw at you, you're all prepared to handle it. And for us, it's just an incredible, it truly is an incredible gift that we have.
And I had most of the lines, so it was really hard for me. And he just had to nod occasionally.
Don't believe him just because he's British. You won't even know which scene it is when you see it on the TV.
Guys, I'm
Scene in
sorry,
which he
you're
has
not going to
4
see it on
words.
TV.
Yes, we've got it.
Good hustle, but it's not going to make it.
So inspiring. We'll leave it till next season.
That's very good. Oh, please cut that scene. That'll make me so happy. It'll be very funny.
For you and the writing team, was it a difficult birth of season 2? Did you have the story in your head and it kind
Piece of
of
cake.
mapped out, or would just?
I think, I mean, women who've had multiple children say that they forget, right? And it's the only reason they go back through it again. I think something like that must have happened, and I hope it happens again.
It seems like it was easy.
I can't imagine starting on day 1 again now, but no, you know, it's a great experience, and as we spend more time with these guys, know their characters better, but you know, every word they say now is game to come out of their character's mouth.
Tremendously
They know
satisfying to
that.
take something Damien says and then to give it to Paul, which we did a few, and the reverse. We've done, we'll do that too.
Do you have a larger arc in mind?
Of course, absolutely.
3, 4, 5.
Well, yeah, this was rewarding when you came up to, so the first time we sat down, when this thing started, the two of us and David Nevins at Showtime, and when we started figuring out who's here tonight,
Tonight with
David
Matt
and Matt Plank are at Showtime. But when we really decided to offer the thing to these two guys, it was really, this was the crew that started it. And we had conversations, Dave and I sat with Paul and sat with Damien and went through the show. And the end, we told Damien how this second season was going to end before we started the pilot. And you came up to us, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, and you went, you guys really did the thing that you said you were going to do. And it was, so yeah, we do think this stuff
I
through.
just assumed you'd lied to me to get me to do the job.
But I mean, we had planned a bunch of this stuff
Planned
out.
exactly the mechanics of everything that happened.
No,
I
nothing.
can tell you, about 2 weeks ago, I called him in a panic, going, I don't think I understand what the hell's going on anymore. And I'm Chuck Rhodes, I'm supposed to be running all them. It gets very, very complicated. Did you literally have
Most of
mechanics
that.
of that
Well, the exact little mechanics of how
Yeah.
each step happened, we didn't have completely.
But you knew the general idea.
But we understood what the last sort of moments of this season were going to be before we started.
But it's interesting as well. There's, I used to ask these guys, and they were suitably cagey with their answers. Quite right, I would have been too. And I was asking, what's your world view? Because we live in this fantastic place in TV at the moment where despicable people are marvelous. And marvelous people are despicable. And it's just a great, delicious place. And that nowhere is that more true than on this show. And it's told the story with such relish. But I said, so you're going to have a world view at some point. You're going to have to make a judgment what you actually believe in these characters. Do we believe them to be good or bad intrinsically? And I think the fun thing about this season is that some of those themes are coming to fruition now in a way that they didn't last year. The seducing but corrupting nature of power, both political and financial, are really being manifested this
We
season.
were interested in consequences this season a little bit, and the world certainly shows you that there are consequences.
Yeah.
You pick a billionaire and you idolize them, there are consequences. So we had to bring the fucking worldview out this time.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Thanks. I think Donald Trump just got me killed in season 3. Shit, I didn't see that coming.
You're not getting out of this one that easy as the other one.
We're going to take some audience questions. So there's going to be some microphones going around. But before we do, I want to just quickly mention into this incredible cast, you have some great additions as well for season 2. Some specific characters specifically written for Christopher Denham.
Yes.
Without giving away too much. Terrific actor, most recently on Manhattan. Plays a really intriguing and integral character.
Absolutely.
Particularly in the life of Chuck Rhodes. And Danny Strong, who just adds, a little verve to everything.
we wrote
also.
those two parts for those two guys. Not being friends with Danny's a friend, and we wrote it for him. Chris Denham was just an actor we loved. We had never met him, but we had this idea for a character, and we were like, we're gonna give this to Chris Denham, and then met him, and he just kills it. He's fantastic. And also, we've announced these things. Eric Bogosian has a big part this year, and he's spectacular and so much fun to work with. And Mary Louise Parker appears in a couple episodes this season as well. So yeah, there's some great. And we haven't announced that.
David Strathairn. Oh,
We intentionally haven't announced it.
You know what? We've announced it.
David Strathairn is in the show, everybody.
In fact, he's here.
Say whatever you want.
Again,
Get the memo, man.
that's
When
fantastic.
David calls you and says, "Why was I cut from season 2?"
Blame
He's going to
me.
come back to this one.
That's it.
All right, great.
That's hilarious.
Raise your
This
hand
one,
and
yeah.
please wait for the microphone to come. In the back there.
Hi, yes, I have a question for Damien. Are there any real-life figures or other inspiration that you might have taken for how you portray the character, the accent, any kind of inspiration for that?
Yeah, several. I met several hedge fund billionaires in the lead up, both in the UK and here. And I found qualities in them that, in the end, actually didn't have much relevance to what was written here. Where he is a fictitious character, fictional character, and he moves in a rock and roll sort of cowboy-esque way that I didn't find actually in the hedge fund billionaires I met. I found a vanity, I found ego, I found great intelligence, I found a willingness to listen, never really speak unless they needed to, but I found in all of them, and this is what the guys have absolutely taken directly, is the game. The competition, the game is the most important thing, more so than the money. Obviously, we are talking about people who have already made $1 billion, so the money's become less important. But the game and the fun of the game is everything.
This question is also for Damien. Did you know when you were being killed off as Brody that you were going to be Bobby Axelrod during the time?
Yeah, I made the call.
But did you know that...
Evans is upgrading me to a billionaire. This is great. So I need to be dead by the end of it. No, they're unrelated. No, unrelated. And I was actually not in. God, how many people have said this? I was not intending to come back into a TV show, and I was seduced by these scripts, by the scripts and the pitch. These guys pitched something compelling, and I think, as did David, and I think we're bringing that to bear. I think we're doing that. I'm really pleased with that. I think it's Nevins. I'm going to quote Nevins, actually. He gets very excited about things which can be commercial entertainment and dovetail in and out of the hard news. Homeland certainly was able to do that. And this is able to do that. And that is kind of a sweet spot for a 12-hour show, if you can be borrowing from the headlines and make it really relevant, but make it as fun as this. That's a good thing to be doing.
But as season 3 approaches, do you have just a tiny twinge of...
I don't think you can get executed for insider trading. But who knows?
Not if Chuck Rhodes has anything to say about it.
Who knows? Who knows?
Hi. I have a text message from Kelly O'Coin,
Who plays Dollar Bill on the show.
Dollar Bill. No, I won't be there tonight. But if there's a Q&A after, tell them you really love Dollar Bill and hope he's in more scenes. And then he's added about 5 smiley emoji. So.
Well, Dollar Bill has a lot to do this year. If you like Dollar Bill,
Yeah.
you'll be happy.
Did you just make that up, or is that real?
I know who she is. She knows Dollar. She knows Kelly.
So The Billions is my dream show because it has my favorite actor, Damian Lewis. It's filmed in my favorite city in the world, and it has a lot to do with what I do for a living, game theory, because it's a close-up study of rational agents having strategic interactions. I'm so impressed by how you use game theory in the show. You even have the language, like Prisoner's Dilemma. You have textbook signaling games in the show that I, in fact, used in my game theory classes. So how do you integrate it into writing? That's my question.
Thanks.
Bryan
By stud, I mean, we all talk game theory. I mean, we all talk about game theory a bunch. We certainly do in the writers' room. And I mean, I happen to know you're a professor at one of the great, prestigious universities in the country. Because you've come. I know you're a big fan. You've come before to these things.
Yes.
And
I'm so flattered. She knows me.
you basically asked the same question. So let me just say that see, this is a form of game. We're playing a game right now. We're doing the same thing. We try really. It's really rewarding to know. Right? It's rewarding to know that that still it's landing for you in that way. The next question.
I'm guessing your PhD and MBA demographic is just off the charts in terms of your television demographics. Right here in the white shirt.
My question's for Paul. You're so incredibly powerful, and I think it's more than just the voice. And I was wondering if you had...
Yes, it is.
I know it is. And I'm such a huge fan, and I was wondering if you had any advice to young actors about how you access such rich and deep characters. I did a scene with you as an extra on Billions, and I made you laugh, and I might be in love with you. And,
Wow. Do I have any advice?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, no. I'm the last person that should be giving anybody advice about anything. I mean, really, if there's anything, you need to have really good writing to start with, and then you need to have other really good actors. So I'm just lucky, is all I am. The only way I know how to do it is I'm just lucky.
Talk about preparation.
Still running for mayor, thank you. Oh, sorry, I mean,
What he's too modest to tell you is he works his ass off. He's prepared on such a deep level. He understands everything about the character, everything about the rest of the world that he's playing in. He knows the text, and
no, I do.
Making faces next
No,
to
I'm
you,
not
Dave.
making faces. I'm not making faces.
Pulling faces, I think is the technical.
But honestly, the writing, it starts with really great writing.
I'd like to pick you up a little bit.
I'll say that. How about completely unafraid to expose
Paul does
himself?
have a remarkable facility to ingest the words and then convey them at 6:30 in the morning as though he's like 6 months into a long theater run, and it's just bang. And you do that.
Thank you.
Over at Axe, we do a little bit of holding script in hands for a few rehearsals, and we work through it in that sort of way. But
That's much smarter what you're doing.
But when I'm with you, you're just
much smarter.
You're bang.
And also the table read. You could film him at the table read. Just reading the script is captivating. So yeah, it is.
Wow.
He is powerful. Definitely.
But it is just his voice.
Yeah.
In the end,
That's it.
the voice.
That's
In
it.
the end.
It really is. Just put a bag over my head.
Finally, voice. A lot of questions.
Hi, I'm actually a trader, and I've been in the asset management business for over 28 years now. And I know the terminology that you use is on point. What has been your reaction, or have you gotten any reaction from other people in the hedge fund industry? Because I can tell you, from me, spot on, favorite show. Thank you for finally doing a show for people in finance.
They have so little. They have a show of their own.
No, that's great.
Wear
You know
that.
what's been great is like the two guys right in front of you, Matt Blank and David Nevins, who run Showtime. They hear from hedge fund people who tell them how accurate it is. I mean, Matt will call and go, "I ran into this guy and he said you guys got it right." Yes, it's super rewarding to know. Anytime you dive into a world like this, you want the people who live in that world to think that you're telling it as it is. or at least that you understand as it is, how it is if you're going to change it. You know, we spent a lot of time with hedge funders and still do, and we have there's cameo by one really famous hedge funder. I mean, famous in that world this
Can I
season.
announce it? Can I say it?
Dude, two.
Yeah, two.
Are there two?
There's one, right?
Two on.
One.
Okay, well, we'll come back.
We'll come back to it.
Did I think he was a hedge fund billionaire the whole time I was working?
Actual guy.
You look exactly like that guy.
Yeah, there's the more, but we do, and we can call upon them. So if we have a question, we can all reach out to them.
Can you tell us who it is?
No.
No.
I'll just say it.
Want me to say?
Ask Paul afterwards.
Jim Chanos is in the show. Jim.
He must be talking about a short then.
I'm not going to tell you what he's talking about. But spoken like, I love that. A hedge funder looking for information. You want the information. Good. You probably gave up everything by what I said.
We have a question down here.
Paul, it's you again.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh,
First of all, the cast is incredible. Your chemistry is so obvious, the writing, the acting. Enough, I know compliments. But Paul, I've seen every movie you've made.
Uh-oh.
And,
Wow.
and I'm not a
I
stalker,
haven't
don't
even
worry.
done that. so.
What I find incredible about you, but not only you, several of the other of the cast, but Paul, specifically you, in every role you've ever played, it's almost as if I forget that you're Paul Giamatti. You're just that, you become that character. I could
appreciate that.
watch one movie, watch another one an hour later, and my father, my sister, we're like blown away.
Boom, boom, boom.
And it's, you become, I theoretically
Security.
know it's Paul. Okay, so here's my question. I will get to the point now. Here's my question. Is it more challenging playing one character who we're going to watch through this, however long this series is on, which I hope is for several years, as compared to playing one role in a film? And emotionally, spiritually, physically, how is that different for you?
I'd never done a TV show before. So
I
it's the
know,
first
that's why I'm
time,
asking,
So
yeah.
I'm discovering as I go along. It's different in many ways. I mean, the sort of stamina thing's different, and there's lots of interesting things. One of the most interesting things, and I can never quite articulate this right, but and I'll try, and I'll probably fail, but there's something that's great about it. This is just the experience I've had, and I'm not necessarily answering your question, but it's kind of the best of both worlds of stage and movie. It's sort of, it's like I'm getting the experience of working the same guy every night that I would on stage. But it's always new material every time. So I'm always tumbling ahead into new material with the same guy. And it's wonderful. I don't often want to know too much of what's coming up because I want to be a little bit surprised and see what little chemical reaction will happen to this guy that I think I know all about, but I don't really, because something new may come up, you know. So it's very exciting to do it. It's very energizing and vitalizing.
So you
it's
equally,
fun. Yeah, it's just a different thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Bryan, I just want to say I think you're incredible, and I've watched you since you were a young guy. Also,
I mean, really get security. It's no longer a joke.
No, your dad is friends with my father. So
Even more so.
I think.
I mean, just to finish, we do sort of joke that doing this sort of TV is a bit like doing theatre in close-up. It is the muscularity needed and the learning and the long speeches and everything. It is different qualitatively from film that way.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can all agree that we hope this run goes on for a very long time. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you. Great.